Okay.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to another video. We're very excited today because we're starting a new series that we've been looking forward to doing for quite a while, but we never got around to. In case you're wondering what happened to the vlog, we're still doing it. I think we're planning now on coming out with a vlog once a week. We'll film every day, and then at the end of the week it'll be like a highlight reel kind of thing, because it is a lot of work to edit a vlog every night. So we're still doing that, but now we're starting a series where we talk about gear, specifically camera gear. So today we're going to talk about camera bodies specifically.
So the first camera body we're going to talk about is the iPhone.
Love it or hate it, everyone has a smartphone. Pretty much everyone has a smartphone, and the camera technology in these things is actually pretty good nowadays. You're talking about shooting 4K video at 28 frames, full 1080 at 60 frames, anywhere between 18 megapixels to 40 megapixels for the photos. The dynamic range is not stellar on phone cameras, but that's because the optics are so tiny. But speaking of how tiny they are, it's incredible to imagine that we can shoot 4K video on something that's the size of a pea, literally the size of a pea. So people like us who do photo and video on a professional scale, it really annoys us that people are out there shooting on their phones thinking it's professional. So we beg you not to think that this is a professional quality camera, because it never will be.
Yeah, the iPhone is basically the equivalent of a point and shoot. Yes, it has a lot of cool features on it that can give you really cool photos, but I wouldn't consider it professional.
Yeah, it's definitely not a professional quality camera, but we both love to shoot on them every now and then. It's convenient because you always have it with you. We try to always have our cameras, but it's not always convenient to pull it out. Some places don't even allow you to have an actual camera with you, so being able to have your phone is very convenient. And I actually have used 4K footage from my phone along with some of the stuff shot on the camera I'm filming with right now in full short film style videos.
Next thing.
Next camera we're talking about is GoPros. We both have a GoPro. I think everyone needs to have a GoPro. They're not crazy expensive, especially when you consider what you're getting. Gabs has the GoPro Hero 3 Silver. I have the Hero 4 Session. The advantage to the Session is it's a lot smaller.
Yeah, like see, this is like a big cube. This fits easily on like a helmet or anything.
And I have it. I have mine in the mount plate right now. So if I can get it out here, I mean it's tiny. But this all on the front is the lens, and all you have to do to start recording is push the button on the top. It has a little screen that displays shooting mode and how long your video is and things like that. They're really tiny and you can stick them anywhere. Something that GoPro really won at was making a camera that you literally can put anywhere. You see them all over the place. People have them on their cars. You even see them in like a NASCAR and IndyCar. They put them on during the races. Surfing, snowboarding, biking, running, anything.
Yeah, any sport.
Any sport. People put them on their dogs, cats, anything you can think of, you could put a GoPro on it. I put one on my lawnmower once when I was doing that. So did a little time lapse that way. They're really good for time lapse. You just stick them anywhere. As long as you have a good size micro SD card in there, you can record a whole time lapse. Just throw it in Premiere or whatever editing software, shrink it down. You don't have to worry about focus either. Something with the iPhone is when you focus, it's a tap focus, which can be nice, but there's no depth of field there. There's also no depth of field with the GoPro, but you don't have to worry about focus at all, because the way that the lenses are set up, everything is always in focus. Foreground, background, it's 0 to infinity focus all the time. So you literally just grab it, push a button, and you're shooting. You don't have to worry about anything. Next up is mirrorless cameras, which we actually don't have any of right now. I do have a Canon at home. It's a much older model mirrorless camera, but it's pretty old and I never use it anymore. I took that camera with me to a lot of different places. It's been to Florida a couple of times. It went with me in the backcountry mountains in New Mexico for 2 weeks. It's been through the mountains in Maine and many other states, in Colorado. It's very small. One of the biggest things about mirrorless cameras are they're very small. Some people say that a mirrorless camera is basically a DSLR, but a lot tinier, and that's not necessarily true because there are limitations to mirrorless. Someday, probably in the near future, mirrorless will be at the same level as DSLRs that we use now, but Gabs and I both prefer DSLRs by a mile.
Mhm. I mean, I've never used a mirrorless, so I guess I can't really like say much about it, but I feel like they'd be nice because you don't have to carry a huge camera body around with you. It'd save up on space and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, big space saver. People I talk to about mirrorless cameras, people who shoot video and photo on them, tell me that I'm crazy for sticking with the DSLR body because Sony especially is a brand that's doing 4K at 60 frames, and even there are mirrorless cameras like Blackmagic that shoot 4K at like 128 frames. Blackmagic has a camera called the Pocket Cinema, which is a mirrorless camera. It's very small. It's even smaller than an iPhone in size. It's about the size of an iPhone 4, and it can shoot 4K at 128 frames, which is crazy. Mirrorless cameras are really good, and a lot of them are 4K, but when it comes down to it, they're just not at the same level as DSLRs in terms of being able to shoot video and photo professionally. Next up is, of course, DSLR bodies. We have a bunch of them here. We're going to run through some of them really quick. These two right here, this is a Canon T2i, no. This is a Canon XTI, this is a Canon T2i. They're pretty much the base models when it comes to Canon's DSLR range. This one is much older. This one's pretty old. I think it's about 6 to 8 years old now, but still a trooper. It works awesomely. I still shoot photos on it every now and then because it's really convenient. It's a lot smaller than newer Canon cameras like the 5D series and the 70, 60, 70, and 80D cameras. Yeah. The bodies are much bigger on those.
They have smaller screens on those ones too.
Yeah, this has a much smaller screen, of course, because of its smaller factor, and it also doesn't have a screen that flips out or rotates in any way. Obviously, it's not a touchscreen, it's too old for that, and in terms of functionality, it's pretty limited, but as a good camera just to grab and go with, it's really nice for that. I think for people who are just getting into the photography world, or even people who want to shoot photos of their kids or their friends and family at sporting events and things like that, this is a great option to go with. Canon's T-Series is really nice in that way. This is a Nikon camera. It's the only one that we have on the table. It's the only one that we have between the two of us. The first camera body that my parents bought when they got married was a Nikon, but other than this one, that one is the only other one I've ever used. This is a D5100. It's a great camera. It's basically equivalent to the Canon 60D. It's not quite as nice. It doesn't have quite as many features as that, but it does have the screen that flips out and rotates. And it has a lot more features than the base model DSLR cameras. Nikon is different in a lot of ways, a lot of weird ways, like when you want to tighten the lens to attach it, it rotates in the opposite direction. Little things like that that are weird. It has sort of certain quirks to it. The menus are laid out in a much stranger way. Nikon tries to make their camera menus more user-friendly, but I don't think they necessarily succeed with that, because it doesn't take long to pick up a Canon camera and learn all the menus and be able to run through it super fast. I've shot a lot of video on this. I've shot a bunch of photos on it, run through a bunch of gigabytes and even terabytes of storage on this camera. I use it a lot. I use it to vlog when I first started vlogging, so people who watch my vlogs will know a lot about this camera. I don't really use it anymore, but sometimes when I'm doing a video shoot that I'm interviewing or something, I'll take it as my secondary angle camera to get that second angle of interest, so that I don't have to have somebody else shooting with me.
So this is the Canon 60D. It's basically the older model of the 80D that we're shooting on right now. I'm more of the artsy person. I don't get into a lot of technical stuff, so he would know more about all the features and stuff that it really offers. This is my favorite camera that I've had so far. I had the Canon XTI. That was the first DSLR I ever owned. And then this is the second camera that I bought. And yeah.
This camera right here has a grip on it right now, a battery grip. That's why it's so tall. Without the battery grip, I'm going to unscrew really quick.
Okay.
Without the battery grip, it's basically the same height as the other cameras that we were just looking at.
It's just a little wider.
It's just a little bit wider. This is it without. As you can see, there's quite a difference there. But when we're comparing it to other cameras, it's very similar in size. It is a little bit wider, it is a little bit taller, but it's pretty close in sizes. So if you're familiar with shooting on a smaller DSLR, when you move up to one of the bigger dogs like the 60, 70, or 80D, and I'm sure soon coming will be the 90D if they stick with the D series. But we like to shoot with the battery grips because it allows you to do a lot more in terms of grabbing onto the camera. It also fits 2 batteries in it in a tray that is really tight on yours.
Yeah.
So it basically doubles or almost quadruples even the battery life of your camera, and it's really nice. It has control functions on it for a bunch of different controls on the camera. So if you want to shoot portrait rather than landscape, it's all right here for you. And we're going to talk about camera accessories and batteries specifically in another video. We're just sticking with camera bodies right now, but I thought I should explain why this one is so much more massive than all the other ones. The camera we're shooting on is the Canon 80D. Neither of us have ever owned a 70D, but the 60D's older brother is the 70D. It's the same camera, just newer, has a lot more features. Not a lot more features, but it has more features. It has a touchscreen. This, of course, has the flip-out screen, but the 70 was the first Canon DSLR to have a touchscreen. Even bigger cameras like the Canon 1DX Mark II and the 1DX don't have touchscreens. So the 70 was the first to do it. The 80 also has it. It's just nice to be able to go through menus really quick, just tap on the screen. You can also tap to focus, similar to an iPhone feature. There are a few other things you can do, like you can touch the screen to activate the shutter to take a photo if you're in a situation where you don't want to be pressing the button to shake your camera. The 70 and 80D also have Wi-Fi capabilities, which means you can send photos directly from your camera to a computer or a printer if you're taking photos on site. You don't have to buy an adapter. They do sell an adapter for it that will automatically send it, but they're like $500.
Yeah, they're kind of expensive.
Yeah, they are expensive. So having that built into the 70 and the 80D is a really nice feature. Like I said, neither of us has ever had a 70D before, but Gabs is shooting on the 60D. I'm shooting on the 80D. I thought about getting a 70 because they are considerably cheaper than the 80 right now, but I thought if I was going to spend all the money on a new one, I might as well get the newest one anyway.
You can tell this one has a lot of love. I have paint and lots of other things from other shoots I've done. So.
Yeah, there's fluorescent paint and dust and all sorts of water spotting and stuff on the cameras.
It's very durable.
Yeah, these little guys here are not waterproof. They're water splash resistant, but you really don't want to get them wet. Cameras like this, the 70 and the 60 and the 80D, are weather resistant, which means rain, dust, snow. You can just go out and shoot without having to worry about your camera getting dusty and dirty and stuff. Obviously, you don't want to let anything get inside where the sensors are, and all of your ports, you want to keep everything shut, but even the screen and the viewfinder and everything, all weatherproof, which is really nice. That's part of the reason they're a little bit bigger than the cameras like this, but it's a huge advantage to be able to have that, not having to worry about snow falling on your camera and rain and splashing and things like that.
The new Rebels, the new T5i, all those, they have touchscreens as well. It's like a newer feature on the newer cameras that Canon's come out with, probably Nikon too. Yeah.
Similar to how cars used to be optional with a backup camera, and that was like a really nice feature to get. Now every car has one. That's kind of true with touchscreens on cameras as well. As people get more comfortable with using touchscreens on things like their phones, and even like TV remotes and microwaves have touchscreens now. So people want them on their cameras. So basically every Canon and Nikon model that you can get, and Samsung and Panasonic and Sony cameras as well, will have touchscreens. Mirrorless cameras have touchscreens as well, although they're not quite as big typically. All of these DSLR cameras that we have, they have a little door that opens on the side here. That is where you put the SD card in. Some can use CF cards. This one here, the Canon that we were talking about before, the XTI, can use CF cards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're larger. They're kind of a pain to use.
Yeah, let's see. Is there one in here? They are a lot bigger than an SD card.
Yeah, they're a lot bigger than an SD.
They're like this big.
And
an SD card's about...
SD cards are
big.
tiny. CF cards are big. There's a new memory card called the C-Fast card, which is even bigger, but C-Fast cards, I think the smallest they are is 128 gigabytes, which is massive. They cost a lot more too, so getting more than one of them is sort of a chore. But it's worth it for bigger storage. we're going to talk a little bit about cinema cameras, even though neither of us own a cinema camera because they're way too expensive for us.
Yeah. At the moment. Yeah.
At the moment, they're way too expensive for us. I love cinema cameras. I've shot on a cinema camera once, and that was the Red Epic W shooting in 8K. It's heavy, but when you think about these big, huge camera rigs that you see on like behind the scenes and stuff for big motion pictures, it's pretty small. In fact, it's not too much bigger than like a 60, 70, or 80D in terms of size. They're pretty small. Once you get all the modules attached onto it, they can get a little bit bigger though. But that camera that I shot on cost $75,000, which is why neither of us have anything like that. You can get cinema cameras a lot cheaper. Red is a brand that makes cameras that are used in films like Guardians of the Galaxy, Fast and the Furious, big time motion pictures.
Yeah, just any big movie.
Yeah, any big movie. Actually,
some use the ADD. I've actually seen that used in some movies. It's like small parts where there's a lot of like action and stuff going on where they don't need the big camera to capture. It's easier to carry a smaller camera than the Red camera 'cause it's a lot bigger than the other ones.
There are movies that are huge Hollywood budget movies that bring in millions of dollars on opening day in the theaters that were filmed completely on the ADD, actually. And it's something that's worth looking up, too, because it is pretty interesting to see the wide range of variety of cameras that have been used in Hollywood. So neither of us have a cinema camera, but I love shooting on them. The day that I got to shoot on the Red was an awesome experience that now has me hooked, obviously, because once you start using a piece of gear, you just can't put it down. At the point where you have to decide, do I buy a really nice exotic sports car or do I buy a camera? You know, it starts to get a little bit more difficult to justify your spending. So someday, though. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned a little bit about camera equipment that we use right now in terms of camera bodies. Again, this was specifically talking camera bodies, a whole different variety. As you can see, we have a bunch of lenses laid out here. Our next episode, we're going to talk about lenses, the ones that we use, what they're for, pros and cons, why we have a little lens like that and a huge lens like that. And we're going to have videos where we talk about camera bags, lighting, locations, models, basically everything you can think of when it comes to shooting photo and video. We're going to have videos about it, so stay tuned and look forward to those. We're both looking forward to doing those. Let us know if you have any questions in the comments or if there are any specific videos you want to see. If there are any camera bodies that we don't have that you guys want to see, we can see about getting our hands on some to do reviews. And if you want to see any of these cameras reviewed more in depth, we can also take a look at doing that.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Once again, hope you had a good time watching us today, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.